Okay. Are we ready this time? All right, folks. Welcome to the Details Podcast. We have been trying to set this thing up for the last, I'd say, hour and a half. We just recorded an intro and realized that it didn't record properly, but now we're finally here. And I'll make the same joke again. James, thanks for making me a part of your 10. We've extended it from 5 to 10 here in Ontario, in Canada. And oh my God, I'm just so fed up now. I don't even want to do this anymore.
A lot of energy has been sucked out of the room after the hour and a half process it took for us to actually get this thing going. But no, it's good. I'm happy to have you here, man.
So James and I decided to take advantage of protocol that calls for, a little more leniency, flexibility on the social distancing. So we wanted to record this one in person, but we quickly realized there might be something wrong with my laptop. I guess spilling water will do that to it. But I've just been in denial this whole time.
The fact that you waited an hour to tell me that part was a little concerning, but I'll just go on without that, I guess. That's fine.
But it is 3:41. We normally start recording at 3, but I got here at around 15 after 2, so you can imagine how frustrated we are. And I almost thought, fuck it, maybe we should just record this tomorrow. But I gotta give James for credit for being patient through all this.
Patience is a virtue, I've been told.
You're a quarterback, so yeah, I guess you have to have a lot of patience.
Don't
sometimes,
call me that.
eh?
I was a quarterback.
You were a quarterback.
Past tense, bro.
Whew. All right. So how you been? How was your weekend?
It was good. It's good. I try and get outside a lot. We've had some nice weather recently, which is nice. Get biking, try and get out in the sun. I heard you were in the sun a lot as well.
As you can tell, I'm a lot darker.
You look a little darker.
I'm a little darker.
Yeah.
I've got a farmer's tan full extent.
Nice.
You'd think I'm on a construction site, but no, went hiking. Played a lot of ball yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm still avoiding getting around in massive crowds. I know a lot of people are comfortable with it, but I'm still not. So I've got my social circle to a certain minimum.
It definitely seems like we're a month away from figuring out if there is going to be a massive spike again. Eh? It seems like it's coming soon here.
Well, the cities that their numbers are completely out of control, it makes sense because we've seen the footage, we've seen the video,
of course.
right?
Yep.
I think we're lucky enough that we live in a town that, even though people are kind of gathering, they're still wearing their masks and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we're lucky in that sense. But yeah, I guess the test and the results will come to fruition in a month or so.
It's going to be more interesting to see this NBA and all these sports scenes, how they get affected by this information coming out now.
Absolutely. So I got to ask you, of the news that broke in the last couple of days, which one is more exciting? So we have Cam Newton being signed by the Patriots or J.R. Smith joining the Lakers, the ultimate meme team, the potential of Rondo, Dion Waiters, LeBron, JaVale McGee, and J.R. Smith being on the court at the same time. That sounds pretty enticing.
I think the Lakers move is incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
And the meme team, and I get it. That's he's a funny guy, and he's made a bunch of dumb mistakes in huge games. But he's also been a consistent shooter for LeBron, who's played defense, and a guy that legitimately knows how to play with Bron. And dude, it made sense for them to sign him. I think they were always going to, and I think they were kind of planning on that later in the season, anyways. But no, I love the pickup, and that's a better guy for me on the court than when you tell me Avery Bradley or Alex Caruso get minutes. That's. J.R. Smith, I'm okay with. This guy has the experience. I think he's probably top 10 3-point. I think he's in the top 10 3-points made in the NBA Finals, I believe.
Yeah, if you were to tell me that was a fact, I would totally believe you.
So
he's 34. Avery Bradley's 29, which I found surprising because I would have thought it was the other way around.
Well, Avery Bradley got hurt by every season he's played in, I believe.
Been injury. And he's been injury plagued as well, right?
Big time.
But you're right. There's that leadership, right? J.R. Smith has been to the NBA Finals multiple times.
It is massive, dude, and you've seen it with this Lakers team. Even to go, and then now to have this extra guy where they don't really have that wing play, he just knows how to play with LeBron, which again he's gonna fit right away.
Yeah, and I think we're all waiting for that redeeming moment where he gets a rebound, he actually passes it to LeBron, and they still use a timeout or whatever they have left. So we're waiting for that one genuine moment. It's okay, we can finally get past that, fumble that you had in the NBA Finals against the Warriors. Was it last year or 2 years ago? 2 years ago. So, no, exciting news. But obviously, we are here to talk about Cam Newton becoming a New England Patriot. I want to give credit to Gabe because he's been calling right from the beginning. And I think once things started looking gleam and it wasn't going to happen, I I was hammering him and be like, you were wrong, and now he's got the last laugh. Cam Newton, former MVP in 2015. What are your immediate thoughts to this deal?
My immediate thoughts to this deal is, I'm confused right away. He seems to be being blown out of proportion. Like I'm seeing, I'm seeing all these statistics and all these stuff, and they're getting an old MVP, and everyone keeps using the term former MVP. That was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, and he's changed a lot in his life. And I'm not saying he's not going to be successful by any means. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to find great success with the Patriots. I think that this move is along the lines of what the Jets did by getting Joe Flacco. It's an intelligent move. They like Stidham. Everyone knows they like Stidham. Everyone was kind of why they like Stidham so much. Stidham is a mobile quarterback. He's a Cam Newton-style guy. They're going to compete in the same system because the same system is going to go with both players. Mm-hmm. And now when you have that two-position guy, I don't think Bill Belichick or the Patriots care who wins the starting job because they know the likelihood of one of them getting hurt is probable.
Given the style of play.
So they're going to have another guy to come in. And his contract's basically all incentive-based. Mm-hmm. And Cam's in a position where he wants to bet on himself anyway. So it kind of works out perfectly for both parties, no? Yeah. It's a one-year deal. And now if they find that Stidham is kind of doing the same thing as Cam, they can let him go after a year. Or if Cam's friggin' reinvented, they can keep him. But let's all pump the brakes a little bit. This guy couldn't throw 6 months ago.
Right. I think the hoopla is the fact that they got him for so cheap, right? This is a classic Patriots, right? Get somebody on a bargain, on a deal, right? Like, people are like Chicago, Jacksonville, the Chargers, they all had a chance to get Cam Newton, right? And give him something. I mean, this guy was available since the trade deadline of last year, right? So I think it's just the fact that, you know, the Patriots have been playing this waiting game for so long, and then this deal kind of just slid into their lap, right?
But a lot of the reports come out that say that no one was actually interested in Cam Newton.
Right.
So then how much do you want? And I think, you know, with the time that it is right now, with all the racial things that are happening, I think it's kind of lifted up again as a spotlight. But in all honesty, he has not been a productive quarterback for a few years now. So
well, that's a concerning thing, right? Coming off of shoulder surgeries, got his leg injuries, he's still rehabbing his foot. So I mean, that was our concern, right? Like, is he still going to be able to throw the ball? Right?
And I'm a Cam Newton fan, man. Like, I think in a Patriot system with a good defense, they're going to cause some problems. Mm-hmm. At Cam at his best, but For me right now to tell you that Cam's gonna be at his best again, I can't. I can't honestly tell you that I believe that he's gonna be 5 years ago back to what he was.
Right.
Like I saw someone post about, remember when he had this season 3,000 yards. I'm like, brother, this is not the same guy.
Right.
We can't expect that of him. That's just insane. I want to get behind him. I love the comeback story. I would love it. I would absolutely love it if they made a playoff and a nice playoff run or something. And he started every game and like had a great year, but. Relax. Like, we just need to bring it down. The Pats aren't winning the Super Bowl with him, right? Like, they're not... Come on, man. They're not winning the Super Bowl with Cam Newton.
Yeah, I think there's reason to be optimistic because he's still 31, right? And a lot of quarterbacks will reach their prime. So he was early in the sense of getting there at 20 in 2015.
Yep.
You know, since 2011, Cam's been sacked 291 times, which is sixth in the most in the NFL, right? And that speaks to the style of play, and
exactly.
You know, that's why you're probably concerned he's not going to be able to play. But over that same span,
I'm concerned because he hasn't played well in 2 years, and that's empirical evidence.
Right.
That's fact. That's why I'm concerned. This is why just everyone.
This is a guy that lost the starting spot last year with the Panthers, right? Under Ron
and not
Rivera.
only lost, but like substantially got beat out. Kyle Allen was a much better quarterback than him, and by all the pieces. Again, this isn't saying that he wasn't potentially one of the better quarterback seasons in the past 20 years in 2015. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't get why we flip-flop like this so crazy on these guys. Because last year everyone could have sent Cam to the farm and no one gave a shit. Kyle Allen was balling. There was memes about him balling, all this. Everyone now you have all these reports about, do we even bring Cam back? Do they even care? And it's like, yeah, they quit on him. All this stuff. Man, it's a business. We've known it's a business. We know it's a business.
Right.
Especially right now with this quarterback carousel in the NFL. This is fucked.
No, I think...
It's all messed up.
I think it's just because everyone's living in the past, right? Because
exactly.
Since 2011, most career rushing yards, most rushing TDs, most passing... Right. So everyone's just a 3-time Pro Bowler, right? Like everyone... And he had an appearance in the Super Bowl. And we criticized him completely in that Super Bowl because he just didn't come to show up, right?
Of course.
So I think it's just a lot of people, like I guess you want to call it amnesia, right? They're just like... It's all the glory days of Cam Newton, right? And you think because it's Bill Belichick that he will be able to bring the best out of him, right?
Now, with that being said, if you were to ask me where do you think his services will be used the best, I do think it's with the Patriots. Because when you think about that 2015 year, right? Name his receivers. Go. You can't name 3. I know that. Can you name 2?
You're talking about Cam Newton's.
Cam Newton's 2015
Steve Smith is the only guy, right?
One.
Greg Olsen obviously is being his tight end as well, right?
But he didn't there wasn't guys out that were incredible.
Right.
What was so amazing about that season was it really was Cam. Mm-hmm. It was super it was completely on Cam's shoulders.
Right.
And
just to give you numbers, close to 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, 10 rushing TDs, and this is the part I forgot. It was a 15-1 record. They only lost one game.
You were, again, I remember the season. Mm-hmm. I remember going, this team's winning the whole thing. Like these guys are just unstoppable. No one's gonna stop Cam Newton. This is stupid. But this guy's been through so many different life changes as well from that point on. Mm-hmm. He went vegan. He went abstinent for however long. I don't know.
I forgot about that.
I don't know where he is now, but those things and those mass changes, to me, that's concerning. When you have a successful season and then you start kind of getting into a hole and now you're making these huge conceptual, spiritual endeavors in your life, flipping it, it's concerning, man. Right. And it really is. And trust me, man, I want him to come back. I want him to, but I'm also realistic.
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting 3,000 yards. I'm honestly expecting him and Stidham to have a pretty good competition. I don't know. I'm not willing to tell you who's coming on top of that.
Yeah. It's funny because the joke on the internet is, what did Jason Stidham do in Zoom calls to possibly lose his job? Because the Patriots haven't gone back to training camp, right? So Belichick hasn't been able to even see Stidham.
It's Jarrett, by the way.
Jarrett. Sorry, I'm sorry. Jarrett Stidham, right?
Jason Statham, you mean?
Did I say Jason?
You said Jason Stidham. You're thinking Jason Statham.
Well, that's how much I know about this guy. The guy's only thrown, 4 passes in the NFL, right? So we literally know nothing about it. But it's just what could he possibly said to Belichick to make him be like, oh, listen. But I think you're right. It's just the fact to give him sort of a push, competition, right? The Ravens kind of did that with Robert Griffin, right? Because Robert Griffin has the ability to run the same sort of offense as Lamar Jackson would, but Lamar Jackson just exceeded everyone's expectations, so he was able to come in and just excel right from the get-go.
Right. But just like the Jets did, they signed a guy that used to be in his prime, that did the exact same thing they want their quarterback to do at the best of his ability. The Patriots are thinking the same thing. And again, this is incentive-based. They have cap room. Tom just left. Right. Man, there's nothing to lose for New England. It's a 1-year deal where you're going to give $7.5 million to a quarterback deserving of more anyways because of his past. I agree. And people talk about how cheap he was. Listen, the money's fucked. Dak got what he got. That's fucked up. Mm-hmm. I don't get that. Right. Pat Mahomes is going to get $900 million. I don't know what's going to happen with that. The quarterback payments and everything, no one knows how to do it yet properly. We still don't. No one has that figured out. I think once we see KC not overpay Pat, because you can't overpay Pat Mahomes, he's the best player in the NFL, that once you pay him what he's worth, now you're not going to sign anybody else. So that's not even going to do it anyways. So this whole conversation about payment is based off a comparison, but you can't compare it. It's all apples to oranges.
Right.
It's not the same thing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's messed up because if you combine the salaries of Jameis Winston, who, despite his infamous 30 for 30
yards
right
last year.
Yeah, he still threw a lot of yards. So if you combine Jameis and Cam's resume and collectively what they're going to make, guys like Mitch Trubisky, Mariota, Taysom Hill, Tyrod Taylor, A.J. McCarron, Josh Rosen, Case Keenum, Chase Daniels, these guys are all going to make more money than those two combined, which is astounding, right? And it's kind of I'm shocked because, I guess Chicago shot themselves in the foot by chasing Nick Foles and giving up a 3rd round pick, right? You probably could have done better by possibly going after Jameis or Cam, right?
The fact that Jameis Winston doesn't get the love is weird because I would have said when everyone freaking out about this price and how cheap Cam is, Jameis is the bargain.
Right.
He's younger. He just came off a 5,000 yards throwing season.
Right. He's still got the arm. Something that Belichick probably could have used as well, right?
Yeah, he throws a bunch of picks. So does Trubisky, man. There's a lot of guys that throw picks, Yeah. Stafford's been throwing picks forever. We've kind of always been okay with it. He just needs better coaching.
Right.
At some point, you gotta, I don't know, I think you need to take onus and be like, I can fix the guy that threw for 5,000 yards. Right. Or I can help him at least, But I think it's a fit. It's honestly more of a style fit than it is of the personality or the 2015 hope. I don't think Bill Belichick is the kind of guy that thinks he's going to get 2015 Cam again.
Right.
I think he knows he fits the style. It's a cheap thing. He's got nowhere else to go. We'll make it incentive based so that if I want to start Jarrett Stidham, we don't even pay him a damn dime because he never plays. Right? Again, this is a thing that you have to think about. But the whole Jarrett Stidham didn't do anything wrong. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I think the fact that you see Belichick structure this deal the way it is, the timing where it was, and how no one else wanted in, I think this shows almost even more favoritism towards Stidham. If you put a gun to my head, I'm betting that Stidham starts and plays the whole season. Because all these rumors coming out. Oh, how do they like Stidham? How do they like Stidham? The guy knows what he's fucking doing. Okay, the guy knows what he's doing.
Well, for the fact that the Patriots have waited this long to make this sort of decision
And
means
they're
that he still
comfortable
has.
with the
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Well, and I think this is kind of the remember when the Seahawks signed Matt Flynn, right?
I do.
After being a backup for Aaron Rodgers, having that incredible
He had
season.
3 games.
Sorry?
He had 3 games.
He had 3 games, and then
4
Russell
games, yeah.
Westbrook was just waiting for him, right? The same
Wilson,
case with
yes.
Wilson. Oh my God, what's going on? What did I say?
Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook, wrong sport. But Russell Wilson. And the same case was with Alex Smith. Had a great season, but then they just waited for Patrick Mahomes to come in and steal his spot as well, right? And I think with the Patriots, and based off what I'm reading and what I've seen in the past, I think they're going to lean more on the run, right? And that's why it helps to have these 2 mobile quarterbacks, right? Because, I mean, the receiving core is still the same, and they dropped how many passes from Tom Brady, right? You still have Edelman, Sanu, and Harry, right? So I think they're still going to lean on Sony Michel. They're still going to lean on James White, and they're going to continue to kind of hammer. And I think they put money in their offensive line as well, right?
I believe so. But now, again, another piece that no one has even spoke about the Patriots, and again, leadership. This is something you can't quantify. Having Tom Brady at the helm of your organization for the better half of 2 decades? No, 12 years?
Yeah.
For 12 years? Now that he's gone, this is not a simple locker room swap. This is potentially the most difficult change of locker room leadership that has ever happened in sports.
Right. Yeah, you're totally right.
And for us to just assume that Cam's going to be able to walk in and perform and there's no other logistical pieces, that's going to be kind of fucking weird. I'm a little hesitant, man.
Yeah.
There's been one voice for 12 years. And now just some other guys in?
Right.
And you think everyone's going to be down? Trust me, I'm assuming most of them are. But there's going to be some shit going on.
Yeah.
The locker room's not going to be easy this year.
Well, I expect the voices on the defensive side to step up, all right, for the Patriots, right, to fill that void of Tom Brady, like the McCourties, all those guys, Chung, and all those kind of guys that have been there for a while.
But what they're so good at is not letting us know what that's like.
That's very true.
So I could be completely off, and Tom maybe never said much anyways. Or Tom said everything.
Right.
Which would be astronomically depleting to that locker room and team.
Right. No, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they come out of this. I'm still holding on Brian Hoyer. I love Hoyer the Destroyer. Like, that's another guy that's been in the league for a while, right?
Who's also had success with New England, like, multiple different occasions.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely as a backup.
This is why, like, I don't get why we get all excited. When does Bill Belichick ever give a fuck about anybody?
Well, I think it's just because we want a big-name quarterback in New England.
We just want a cool story, right? We want a cool
Absolutely.
story. We want them to win so that we can say Tom's not cool anymore and he's not good, or try and ruin his legacy. And we want to give Cam his new legacy. Just take it for what it is, man. I love a comeback story. I would love to see this guy.
So I gotta ask you, if Tampa and the Patriots play each other, who are you rooting for? Who do you want to see win that game?
Tampa Bay, man.
You want to see Tom get revenge?
There would be nothing that would make me happier. Nothing that would make me happier in sports in the next calendar 2 years than Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm not a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. But the fact that you can bet on yourself like that and go against this age-old debate that I need Bill and Bill needs me or this and that and all this shit, and he just says fuck it and goes on his own. Tampa Bay, boom, bull, I'm out. That's it.
See,
that's the story he needs.
See, I'm the complete opposite, and I'm hoping my Tampa Bay bias doesn't play into this, but I kind of want Bill to play against him and be like, listen, it's my system that made you great. And but the problem there is, like, I hate the Patriots because I hate the Patriots fans, and I've said that on this podcast as well. But it's just that I don't know what it is about Bill Belichick trying to sticking it to Tom Brady that would feel so good.
So now here's the thing where I'm going to come back on you with, and I think Tom is the sticking guy. Tom and Bill always work so well because Bill never gave a shit, but Tom always stuck it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bill's the logistics. He has no emotion. He completely probably separates personality and work. You know, I feel like he's one of those dudes. And I feel like he does the X's and the O's, and then Tom was able to execute because there was so much fight and drive, right? That's why they were such a perfect tandem. I don't see Bill having one red blood cell in his body that wants to like show it to Tom.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that dude. I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares at all.
Like, if they have a losing season this year, then it's just like he won't lose any sleep over. Yeah.
Every night the same time anyways.
But I do like the fact that I think this is an indication that Bill Belichick is not the type to tank a season, right? Because there is no assurance that Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, right? Okay, I didn't know if it's Travis or Trevor. I wanted to be sure. But Trevor, there's no sure thing that he's going to be, an elite quarterback or, going to come out in his first year. So there's no point in tanking it for that. And, I mean, there's no promise that you're going to get that first pick anyways.
No, and again, I don't think he's a tanking kind of guy. I think he really is let's make the best of what we got, figure it out at the end of the day.
Because they still have a great defense, 100%.
Right? 100%. An experienced defense, a very good defense. But it's just going to be it's a tougher division now with him. You don't really have I would say you're maybe the worst team on paper. When does that ever matter, though?
In that division? On paper, you think so? I think the Jets are worse.
What?
Yeah, of
really?
course. Especially if they don't have Adams back there.
Well, right now we do.
Yeah, you can keep hanging on to that.
He's the best safety in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. If you have him and then obviously Darnold and everything else around you, I mean, yeah. But
dude, our D-line's pretty stacked. Got a couple good backers. CJ Mosley. I mean, Le'Veon Bell as well is over there. I think on paper the Jets would have a good run for their money on that.
Sure. I mean, that sounds like a classic Jets thing, that mentality.
Well, who's on the Patriots on paper?
I mean,
you're going to give me the McCourties, yeah.
They went to the Super Bowl. They have the entire team still intact
on
besides
paper. You haven't said a
Tom
name
Brady.
yet, though. You haven't said a name yet.
I mean, I could look right now and cheat, but
you don't know.
But I did mention Sonny Michel's still there, right? Sony Michel, sorry.
Sonny Michel's not better than anyone I named on the Jets.
Running back wise, no. I mean, Le'Veon Bell at the end of the day is still.
I'm just standing up for my boys right now and making a claim.
But how well did Bell do last year?
The Jets are better on paper.
Okay, on paper, sure. I'm trying to think.
But Miami looks good, right? Miami looks good. The Bills were pretty good.
The Bills are the one that I think are the biggest threat to come out of there.
Yeah, and that seems to be the common theme. Everyone's pretty pumped about the Bills. Everyone's all in on Josh Allen.
They just added Diggs as well, right?
Yeah.
Another offensive threat. So
why are these big heads receivers moving? Why is Diggs moving and no one's asking questions? Is he not? Is there a locker room problem? Does he hate somebody? Does he get mad at coaches? Why are these guys moving?
Well, there has been multiple times on television you've seen him bark at whether it was the coach or whether it was
that's
Cousins,
fiery,
stuff like that, right?
You kind of want that sometimes. That's just passion. Guy cares.
Because he's even come out and said there was points where I just wish I had gotten the ball more or was part of the offense more and I just wasn't, right? So I mean I think there was conflict with that, and I think that the Vikings also thought they could go into the draft, and we talked about how stacked
100%.
This year's draft was with wide receivers. Get maybe not a better version of Diggs, but get him at a cheaper price,
right?
With someone younger. I think that's the case because you still have Thielen there as well, right?
So
who had a down year as well.
Chose Thielen almost over him, eh?
Yeah, I think basically that's what they decided to do.
It's interesting though. I just think that we see this I compared Diggs to Cooks now almost. We're always kind of excited that he's over there, but. I don't know. What are we getting out of him?
Right.
Do you think he has his best career year this year?
No.
Right.
But I'm also worried about him having to play outdoors as opposed to indoors, right? That might make a huge difference as well, right?
Such a difference, dude.
Yeah, especially that Buffalo weather, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not getting Miami
outdoors.
weather, you're getting Buffalo weather. You're getting the worst kind of weather, right?
Not only outdoors, but tundra outdoors.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's lucky that he has a quarterback that's now been seasoned in this weather, no pun intended, right? But he's played a couple cold games, so it'll just be a matter of Diggs being able to do it, right? I'd love to see Diggs' outdoor numbers when he's played outside.
I'll be very curious to see that too, and I'm very curious to see what happens when Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson get hurt this year.
Yeah,
because we're always talking, the game's going with the dual threat quarterbacks, and look at Lamar Jackson. I agree. I'm not disputing that, but what happens when they're not healthy?
Right.
Because there's not 12 of them.
Right.
There's 4. It's interesting, man. I don't know.
I know. I completely agree with you. I actually kind of wanted to ask you, based on last year. This wasn't initially part of my conversation, but every quarterback is notorious for having a down year. I think Jared Goff is probably the perfect example of that last year. So I mean, when you're looking at the quarterbacks, I'm looking at total QBR right now for last year. You have Lamar Jackson at the top, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Dak Prescott, Wilson, Stafford, Watson, Fitzpatrick, Tannehill, and at number 10. Derek Carr. I know. He's still... Does he even... No, I guess he's still with Miami, isn't he?
Fitzpatrick's been doing the damn thing.
He's been doing the damage. He's been making money. Is there a quarterback that I just mentioned in that top 10 that you kind of foreseeing having a down year? I mean, Deshaun Watson losing DeAndre Hopkins is a huge one, right?
Yeah, but... Yeah, I think that team is... I would put my money on him for sure because I think that team's a bit of a... they're about to implode. Mm-hmm. That's how it feels.
Yep.
But the one I like to say out there too, I think Jared Goff doesn't have as good of a year again.
Still, eh?
I do. I think.
And his QBR, he's at 23 with 48.5. right? It's like, so if you want to get worse than that, I mean, you're talking about getting into Josh Allen, Darnold, Minshew, Dalton numbers. So
it's going to be interesting with that team, but they're going to have issues, man. They did all that cap work. They're going to have to move a bunch of guys. It's going to be a little dysfunctional, I think.
Okay, well, it should be interesting to see what kind of news folds up in the next couple of weeks.
Out of that list, though, I like Tannehill having a year.
Yeah,
I think
with Tennessee.
I think he's going to be comfortable. He's finally got some love to him. He knows he's the guy. They know he's the guy. They're committed to him. I think he's going to really let it fly.
Yeah,
People still forget, and I need to remind everyone about this.
Go ahead.
That Ryan Tannehill played receiver at Texas A&M for 3 seasons. For 3 seasons.
I did not know that.
Or sorry, 2 seasons, and then. They were out of one of their quarterbacks were in the transfer portal. He's supposed to come, didn't come. Coach goes, "Yo, Tannehill, can you still huck a rock?" And guy goes, "Sure." So ends up starting and getting drafted.
What did he play in high school?
Played receiver and quarterback. He's just an athlete, dude.
Oh wow, that's crazy. I would not expect that from him.
He played receiver at an SEC level before playing quarterback at an SEC level. So when you talk about the guy's career, yes, he's a little bit longer, but he's under 10 years of playing quarterback.
Right. That's crazy. I did not know
insane,
that.
Dude.
He's like the Allen Iverson of the NFL. Yeah. Being able to play multiple positions like that. Okay, well, I mean, it should be. You never know. The Patriots still might have some moves out there. I mean, Des Bryant is out there waiting, right?
But again, you're saying names that move the ladder in 2012 or 2014 or 2015. These guys aren't. You're not getting that.
Yeah, but I mean, Belichick's notorious for taking a chance on some of these vet guys, right? He gave Darrell Revis that massive contract, right, for 1 year, and it ended up panning out for him.
Yep.
Ocho Cinco and those guys didn't necessarily work out for him, but
it's
they're
worth
notorious for taking a shot, right? Especially in a Bill Belichick system.
And you just got $15 million freed up from Tom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so money is there is money to spend there.
Exactly.
All right, so James, the reason I really wanted to do this podcast, but I feel like it's going to take an interesting turn based on some of the spoilers you've given me prior to coming into here. Vince Carter, all-time Raptor, wrapped up a 22-year career, right? Finally retired, one of the longest to play the game, and I mean his numbers show that, right? Like he's on the all-time for a lot of lists just based on longevity. I guess before you go and rip into him,
I'm not gonna. Whoa! I'm just gonna have
I just want to establish sides. I want people to take my side.
I'm gonna have a different view on this, I think, than you are.
Right. Tell me before we kind of get into the meats and potatoes and have the Hall of Fame debates and all-time Raptors and where he sits. What was your introduction to Vince Carter, and I guess what does Vince Carter mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, introduction to Vince would have just been as a Raptor fan as a kid. I mean, I played basketball growing up right away. That was my first sport kind of thing, post Timbit soccer, basically. And as a family going to Raptors game and stuff, following Vince. Vince was kind of the guy, Vince was it. That was kind of what it was about. And I never really got into his shoes or anything like that. I didn't get into the style as much. I think I was just far too young when he was a Raptor, I mean, by 98 was his first season. I was 3, so and again, I don't recall much of that time,
right?
Which is fair.
I was a little bit older than you,
but the the dunk contest is probably the biggest memory of mine. And he was always in the debate for me as if you were to do it all again, if you were to take the winner of everything and put them all out there, VC's got to be up there. I mean, that was one of the best performances that anyone's seen him have from a Raptor. Was just so cool, and. He by no there's no doubt in my mind that he changed Canadian basketball, and him signing again with the Raptors and him actually always kind of seeming like he would rather be a Raptor than anyone else is just super amazing to see from a player, especially in today's day and age.
Right. So when Vince entered the league in 97, I was a little bit older than you, like you said. I was 10 years old, so I was really coming into playing basketball outside, right? And that's when it really became something important to me, and it was a good pastime. I mean, you just take a ball, you get 10 guys together, and you play basketball. And watching Vince obviously kind of injected the enthusiasm and the excitement to play basketball and get better 100%. At it. It's funny because all this news started to come up, right? He officially announced his retirement. The highlights start reeling in, and I almost got emotional thinking about, for me, I can honestly say, if it wasn't for Vince Carter, I would not have fallen in love with the game as much as I did. I mean, maybe down the line I would have fallen into it, but at that specific time, that is when I really, really got into basketball, right? And that's just the infancy of my basketball fandom, right? When I'm watching these games, it's not about the X's and O's. It's not about the intricacies of the game. That eventually fall into line as I got older and understand the game. But for me, watching a Raptors game, the most important thing was if the Raptors going to win or lose, or if Vince is going to have a stellar game, if he's going to have a 27-point game, a 30-point game like that, that's when, you're so innocent when you're watching the game, and that's when I kind of got into basketball, watching Vince Carter. Obviously, the highlights. I mean, I started doing air alert because I wanted to jump higher. I'm dunking on my 6-foot nets, right? Sometimes even lower because, I mean, obviously I'm not that tall. But it was so cool to watch basketball too, right? You'd have those conversations. Like the dunk contest is a perfect thing, right? Like you watch a dunk contest, and I'll never forget going to school the next day and just talking about all the dunks that happened, right? Like I have a VHS tape where I record all the dunks like that. Like that's how, to the extent that I would go to want to keep that memory. Obviously, like you said, that's like probably one of the biggest highlights of him. But it's just, if it wasn't for Vince, I would not be sitting here. I don't know. Would I have tried out for the high school basketball team, right? Would I played, at an intermediate level, whatever it may be. But like I owe him so much in that sense, and this is someone that I never met, but I just like had such an impact on me, right? And then I started buying cool shoes, and then he was my first jersey. I'll never forget my first Raptors game, and I only went there for Vince. I showed up like 2 hours early to try to get an autograph, and I didn't get the autograph, but I was literally like where you're standing right now. I reached out my hand, right? But it's just he had such an impact on my love of the game.
Yeah, and I don't think you're the only one by any stretch of the imagination. I think what he did for basketball, I think off of the court and in a mental way for kids in Canada is like unmeasurable. I don't think you can really give him enough credit for the kind of person he is. I think a genuine human and a very smart individual, man. Just an incredibly intelligent guy. I'm sure you've watched.
A good human being,
right?
Too.
And I'm sure you've watched the Carter Effect.
Yeah.
Talks about how he owns a club in order to bring the NBA players. Now he's got basketball guys wanting to come to this certain club in Toronto. He's growing the brand in Toronto. And he's never in the headline as this like thug or goon or did anything wrong, right? Yet he's in these positions like owning a club. I feel like you're a target of everybody right away. Right. Like you're almost there's a target right on your head right away after that. How much bad you can do at a club that you own is probably unimaginable. But this guy, just a genuine, rock solid human being. Cares about everybody else. Smart guy, business savvy, hasn't had any money issues. Loves basketball. Wanted to genuinely grow the game, and he did more than anybody else. Right.
He became an ambassador for not only the city of Toronto, but basketball in Canada. Like, I think if it wasn't for him, we don't have the Tristan Thompsons, we don't have the Corey Josephs, we don't have the RJ Barretts of the world. Like, those guys all talk about, when they play Vince, it's like they're just so in debt to him because of what the impact. I think him and Steve Nash are like the two biggest catalysts for basketball in Canada. I think Steve Nash, we got to see, even though you're born and raised in Canada, well, I guess not born in Canada, but if you're raised in Canada, you still have the opportunity to go down to Santa Clara and pursue your dreams and become a 2-time MVP. Vince Carter, right? He showed that, there is a fan base here, and if you play well and if you come out and perform, they will support you. They'll come out in fulls. Like, we don't have the Jurassic Parks. We don't have the success we have if it wasn't for the building blocks and the bricks that Vince Carter laid for us. And I really like the story. I mean, you saying that he's just a good person, in doing my research, I found out that, he played in high school at Mainland High in Daytona. And, in his final year, he was implored to shoot more. They said you could easily average 40 points if you wanted to, right? And he said to himself, no, listen, I've already got my scholarship. I know I'm going to North Carolina. I'm going to play for the great Dean Smith. My goal this year is to get more assists and put my teammates in a position to play at a collegiate level. And so, Vince went in there. They still won the state championship. He only needed to average 27 odd points, and he was still able to get two of his teammates to play for a college basketball team. And I think that is an indication of just who he is a human being. And I think if you're drafting and you hear stories like that, that's just check marks all across the board.
Well, hopefully, right? Because in today's day and age, you would never hear that. You would never hear someone's like go out on a limb and be so unselfish that they want their other teammates to get a scholarship as well.
Right.
That's, dude, like, you'll never have enough Vince Carters in all aspects and all walks of life. I don't think you'll ever have enough of those guys.
Right.
Just genuinely true human beings.
Right. So before we kind of get into the big debates, I kind of just want to go the timeline of Vince Carter, and then we can make the ultimate decision for ourselves.
This is kind of where this is right off the gate. I think you it sounds worse than than you want it to.
Yeah, no, exactly. So 3 seasons Vince Carter played for North Carolina, and he has a great team there, and he has a teammate in Antoine Jameson, who we later find out gets traded for each other. So Antoine Jameson at the time averaged 19 and 10. He won the Naismith Award and the Wooden Award, right? And so, I think if you go back in the history books, you kind of say, like, how did the Warriors want Antoine Jameson more than they wanted Vince Carter? But people have to realize, Antoine Jameson had a better collegiate career than Vince Carter did, right? Vince Carter just came out, he's putting highlights up, so there was a lot of concerns if Vince could ever evolve into a shooter, a full team player, right?
But also in the year 97, a power forward was a very substantially important position.
Right. And
whereas
I think
today it's not.
And I think Antoine Jameson may have had a better career in today's NBA because he was kind of the stretch four that you're looking forward to, right? Because he was able to knock down threes. So they go to Carolina together in the 97-98 season. They go into the NBA draft. And the Raptors prior to that year, 16 and 66 record under Darrell Walker. And so Darrell Walker kind of gets canned after that year. This is also the lockout year, so Vince doesn't play basketball till January. But in this year, and I should mention, so draft day, the Warriors and the Raptors make a trade. The Warriors take Vince at 4 and the Raptors.
No, Vince was at 5. Antoine was at 4.
Sorry, so the other way around, right? And then they made a draft day deal, right? And Glenn Grunwald, I don't know if you know the story. Were you gonna say something?
No, it's just cash and considerations, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. So Glenn Grunwald knew the whole time that the Warriors wanted him, right? And he had his heart set on Vince Carter, but he never told anybody. So he said, "I'll take Antoine, and I'll be able to rise his price, right?" So they trade, and they throw some cash in it, so they're able to do more for it, right? And so in that rookie year, again the lockout year, Vince quickly earns himself the name Air Canada, right? Because the Raptors moved from the Sky Dome then into the Air Canada Center that year. And averages, what does he average? 18.3 and gets Rookie of the Year that year. Now, do you remember that rookie year at all?
Not much, no.
Okay, no, fair. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Well, again, like that's when I just really started to watch basketball on television, right? And that's when I really started getting invested in the game. So then the following year, he just leaps, right? He gets 25.7 points per game. It's the 4th highest in the league at that time. And then at that point, you've got a player that you can start building around. Now you laugh.
Yeah.
Tell me why you're laughing.
No, I just got some numbers that we can go through later. That
fair enough.
I'll talk about.
So the Raptors make a real effort, right? They know that they can start building around Vince Carter. They already have Tracy McGrady, who's a young stud, right? And eventually, he departs. But they add Antonio Davis, who becomes an all-star. Muggsy Bogues was a reliable veteran at that time, and Del Curry, who you might know as Steph Curry's father. They already have Christie, Oakley, Kevin Willis, Alvin Williams, and they have Butch Carter as a coach, who's really, a lot of people credit him for bringing out the best in Vince.
Yep.
And so then they have their first playoff appearance in franchise history. He gets all NBA third team, and then he wins the dunk contest. Like this is, they talk about on the rewatchables on the Ringer, Apex Mountain. Like this is like Vince Carter's Apex Mountain, right?
And it's early, which is quite interesting when you talk about a guy with a 22-year career and you talk about his best years really only being in the first 4 or 5 or 6.
Yeah, well, and I mean we're gonna quickly get into that, but you know what? I want to talk about the dunk contest. Like, what do you? I mean. I think everyone remembers where they were for the dunk contest. Do you remember where you were?
Yeah, I was in my basement. The through the legs thing was stupid. I just remember this is just insane.
Yeah,
and I also remember being extremely thrown off by the elbow.
Yes.
Like, I needed my brother to explain the difficulty of it. Like, I remember I was so young, I was just like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. So, can I tell you a story about that? Because I just found this out recently, and shout out to Sean Dougal because he listens to this podcast. So, he was talking to somebody that, was in the circles of, in Toronto when Vince was around, and so you heard this story. So, Vince Carter actually messed up that dunk. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, like, how do you mess up that dunk? Like, it's pretty straightforward. You put your elbow in, and then you get the reaction that you do. So that dunk, what you're supposed to do, and what he practiced was, you're supposed to dunk it and put your entire arm in there, but then you're supposed to grab the bottom of the mesh and you're supposed to flip it inside out. And so that's why we reacted the way we did, because if we saw the mesh come out, we'd be like, did he just put his entire arm through and reach the bottom of the mesh? So he's supposed to pull it out, like a rabbit out of a hat, sort of. And then that's why, that dunk happened, and you saw Shaq's face, and you saw all you guys and like, wait, did he just do what we thought we did? And it wasn't until the replay we realized, this guy just put his entire arm in the rim. Yeah. So that's kind of the story behind that dunk.
Jason Richardson too. Him and Jason Richardson are the dunk contests that I remember. Just because it looked like they floated, man.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't even look like Vince necessarily jumped.
Right.
It just, I wasn't sure. It was like almost like he was just in between his next time he was in the air.
Yeah.
Every time he was in the air, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was just such a strange thing to watch.
I think this is the part of Vince's legacy. It's just he was such a different dunker. Like it was the flair that was the X factor in his dunks, right?
100%.
The fact that like you could tell a lot of the time when he caught that ball in the air, he like made decisions on the fly. And I mean, you play basketball. Like, imagine catching a ball like that and deciding, "Oh, I'm just gonna tomahawk it, or I'm gonna cock this back all the way behind my neck here, and I'm just gonna throw it down." Like that, the level of difficulty, like let alone catching it where he did.
But also while being the kind of person he is, you know, such a good dude, yet he's an absolute murderer on the court.
Right.
Like murderer.
Right.
Just murderer.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and if you look at his resume of guys that he postered, like it's insane, right? Between Zoe, Mutombo, like all these guys, like he has. His body count is insane.
It's insane.
In that sense,
he also jumped over a 7-footer.
Right.
In Team USA.
Right.
Like
I completely forgot about that.
His best dunk of all time, probably, right? You could
arguably.
Middle of a game, you jump a dude.
Yeah, a 7-foot French dude. Like,
Doesn't make sense.
Where do you decide to do that? And almost punched out Kevin Garnett in the process,
it's
right?
just different.
Yeah.
It's different that I don't think anyone else is kind of like that.
No. You're right, because to the level that he dunked with the ferociousness that he did, you would think that would sort of kind of be maybe a guy that, is egotistical or, has some sort of, his head's blown up because he knows he can just jump over it. But he was like just the kindest guy off the court, right? Even on the court to an extent. Right, so I mean that would kind of come back to haunt him because like he would eventually be labeled as a soft player. So, as McGregor leaves in the 0001 season, right?
Yeah.
This becomes Vince's team. Career high 27.6 points per game. Even levels up even further. Second All-NBA team. He's named a starter for the first time for the All-Star game, and this would become a trend, right? He would just be a shoo-in for the All-Star game.
Whoa. Shoo-in?
Because of fan voting.
He's 8 of 22.
But in those, it was okay. No, but in those Raptor years. I'm talking about the Raptor years. Sorry,
okay.
not after that. But,
fair enough.
But you knew that he was going to start because it was fan voting and people wanted to see him start. I'm sorry, Shoo-in just for the Raptors.
Because he's not a shoo-in as an All-Star.
Yeah. Well, I mean, personally, I'm not going to care to talk about everything after the Raptors because like I wanted to kind of make this more Raptors.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. He was kind of an afterthought after I mean, he had one good year with the Nets, and we can talk about that. And after that, kind of became more of a role player than the go-to guy. First playoff victory versus the Knicks. And again, I think it's important to talk about. He's the first for a lot of things for the Raptors, right? Because for so long we had been used to failure as Raptor fans. Has that epic series against the Sixers. Is a shot away from the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, unfortunately, the shitty stuff happens. He signs, that 6-year contract extension in 2001, and I'll never forget that day. And as a young kid, there was so much leading up to that. Like I was just like, if he doesn't sign again, I don't know if I'm going to be a basketball fan, right? This is my TSN turning point as a basketball fan, and I think that's one of the more important things in this history, right? When you talk about Vince Carter.
Yeah, like so you were staring at the soccer ball in the corner of the room, like fuck.
For me, it was a cricket bat, but yeah. But it's just for me, it's an interesting an alternate universe. If Vince, I don't know if I'm as passionate as a Raptors fan if Vince leaves.
Well, it's interesting to see where the Raptors are too in alternate universe. I would definitely give some credit to Vince on the championship from last year. Like he again is one of the founders of that foundation, and I do believe that by.
Mm-hmm. And he ran a charity game every summer, which you don't even see anymore, and he brings some of the best to play. And I Tyler and Dan were able to go. Unfortunately, my dad was too cheap to buy me basketball tickets at the time. But he did so much for the city. Right?
Yeah.
People tend to forget that because all they want to think about is the shitty departure. So after this, he signs his contract, and this would eventually lead to the detriment of his career. The beginning of knee injuries, hamstring injuries.
Now I want to stop you with detriment because I want to let's remember about the team when Vince came, right? Like when Vince came in his first year, you would say that was the most skilled team was around. Charles Oakley, T-Mac.
Yeah.
Come on.
But he also had a team that had Donyell Marshall, Jalen Rose, a young Chris Bosh coming into his own.
You just throw Donyell Marshall out there?
Donyell Marshall was a 3-point threat. And he was really good at rebounding, sorry.
So you're still going to stand with Donyell Marshall?
No, but I still agree. But I'm just saying, it's not like he didn't have good teams after that.
No, but he was substantially the better player of not as good of individuals.
Yes.
And for us, I want to be fair. I want to be a realist, okay? in Canada when he was doing these huge, crazy dunks and everything. Don't get me wrong. That his style and his persona and the dunks and the finesse, all of that part is unparalleled, and I'm not going to shit talk any part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Carter as an actual basketball player just wasn't that good though.
From beginning to end.
I don't think he was.
Okay.
And I don't think he was in the sense of I don't dispute his All-Star appearances. I totally understand, but let's not forget that Trae Young was voted an All-Star starter this year as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to shit on the Raptors, but there's a brand new team.
Yeah.
You couldn't be good yet.
Yeah.
Like you said, they were 16-66.
Right.
When you have a guy that has any ounce of skill, you're kind of just like, fuck it, get him in the ball. Mm-hmm. Were they ever really super successful when Vince was successful? No. A lot. And when
but
you
you're
go back,
talking about a missed shot away from being in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right. And you know how many teams have been in the Eastern Conference Finals over the past 10 years? Because this is right when we're complaining about how.
Yeah, but this is a way more competitive Eastern Conference than. Today's Eastern Conference.
But you can go back and you can go back and find examples every damn year. Mm-hmm. Atlanta Hawks were a 1 seed, man. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They got swept by LeBron.
Right.
I'm like, you know what I mean? They
didn't even make the Eastern Conference Finals the years that they got knocked out in the first round.
Right, and then or whatever, some teams were 4 games away. If you want to say they were 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, like you're still 1 game away from being 4 games away from being where you need to be 4 games away from. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't want to hear this
I just like
Eastern Conference.
But the thing is, he went toe to toe with AI, who was the league MVP that year. Like he had, Iverson dropped 15 a game. The next game, Vince came out and dropped 15. So there was reason to believe. I know what you're trying to say. I think down the line we realized Vince couldn't be the guy to lead you to an NBA Finals, right? Eventually, given his style of play and given the history of what he had to go through. Like we saw much more success when he was able to play with a Kenyon Martin and a Jason Kidd, right? Like he needed another companion. Unfortunately, we thought that was going to be Jalen Rose, right? We thought it was going to be these guys that couldn't really do it for him.
My point is here that 4 out of his 22 seasons, Vince Carter averaged 25 points or more. So 2 of those seasons he was 25.2, and then the other 2 was 27.1, 27.3. So 4 years of 22, he was able to score at what you would say would be like an elite rate.
Yeah.
Because I don't think 20 is an elite.
Right.
In my personal opinion, even when he got in, I don't think 20 to 22 is elite. Mm-hmm. So for 4 to 22 seasons where you were a Raptor for 7, and I think one of those 27-point seasons was on the Nets. Mm-hmm. So 3 out of your 7 years, I would say that you were a legitimate scorer in the NBA.
Right.
And a lot of it was to do with dunks, man.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm trying to say, I think when you're a guy that gets the system cycled through every possession, and you're this high flyer that brings the energy too, you want him to get dunks. You want him to get all these points.
Right.
And he was only ever able to average 25, 27. You look at his career numbers, right? And obviously, you can say what you want about this because the law of averages fucks a lot of people over. Mm-hmm. But 16.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 3.1 assists per game. Super underwhelming, dude.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the whole entire body of work.
Incredibly underwhelming. When you look at his entire body of work, you're like, this guy's not even good. Mm-hmm. Really, that's your first statement that comes to your mind. And I know that this podcast is going to be listened to a lot by Raptors fans, a lot of guys that are in your memory. Vince Carter was unstoppable. He was amazing in this and that. I think if we were to take a time machine back then and ask everybody around the league, you worried about Vince, everyone laughs in your face. I just don't think he was that good of a basketball player. And I don't think he was as good of a basketball player that we want to put him in. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the biggest thing I think. He was good. He can score 20 a game, right? But so could Juwan Howard. Mm-hmm. So could Jamal Crawford. I want to, my question for you eventually was going to be, do you think Vince Carter is worthy of the Hall of Fame?
So that was something that I wanted to get to eventually. I say based on what the criteria is of the NBA, like we see guys like Mitch Richmond in there, right? Mm-hmm. We see, what's his name? Calvin, is it Calvin? See, Calvin Murphy from the Houston Rockets, right? Mm-hmm. Point guard who could barely average 4 assists a game. Like that doesn't make any sense. I think based on the criteria that the NBA and what they take in, I'd say yes. But if we're looking at the standards of the MLB, I think the MLB does a great job of being very selective in their Hall of Fame process, I'd say no, because I think you're right. If I were to say, look at this player's stats and tell me if you think this is Hall of Fame worthy, then I would say no. Mm-hmm. But I think, given what he has done for the sport, same way Yao Ming,
in Canada though, see, you're missing it, man. We're living in this closed box. You can't. You got to open it past.
I agree with you, but I think the Hall of Fame is not just based on stats and your basketball success. I think
agree.
it's what you've done for the sport. And like the same, and like I said, Yao Ming had a very short career, and you know, if he had a lot longer career, we'd probably be talking about it. But we put him in the Hall of Fame because we know what it did for the sport globally. And I think we tend to forget that, Canada is part of North America, but he was the reason basketball became such a big deal in Canada.
In Canada, though. But I don't want to use the word globally with him.
But isn't Canada considered global when you're talking about the whole spectrum of things?
I don't think...
you reached into a new territory, an untapped territory.
I think we're giving too much credit to the capacity that he hit. When you come up with this Raptors, like, at this time, right? How many Raptors fans are there? 50,000, let's say? Throw a number up, 50,000. Vince made that into 400,000. Don't get me wrong. But there's 25 million fans in the U.S. Do you know what I mean? Like, the footprint isn't the same deal, dude. It's not the same comparison.
But you're telling me that guys in the States weren't oohing and awing when Vince was at his peak? Like, they loved him as much as we did.
How many times do you think they're catching a Raps game, though?
Well, he's the reason we got nationally televised games.
Yeah, but wasn't the number like
before
4
Vince
a
Carter,
year?
there was no nationally televised games.
Yeah, but again, you make a general statement, no, and then now we have some. What was the numbers? Was it 0 to 3? Doesn't fucking mean shit to me. You know what I mean?
That's a big deal for Raptor fans.
It is in a sense in that way, but if you think out of 3 games,
think of how long it took us to get a Christmas Day game.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
But
you wouldn't say rightly so?
What do you mean by rightly so?
I don't want to watch Atlanta Hawks on Christmas.
You're right. I mean, but it's... I mean, they played the Celtics, right? It's better than nothing. The fact that I don't know. I remember like when I saw Vince on NBC, on ABC, like that was just such a big moment.
Because you are a Canadian fan in a completely small market at the time that had no sense of where this could go. So that was massive to you. And I'm not saying that it wasn't. But I'm saying that in the grand scheme of things, when you have 50 million people south of us that already care this much about the sport, without even knowing who the fuck Vince Carter is, it's not a movement on a global scale. I don't think. Canada-wise, dude, I'm telling you, no one had the impact he had on Canada. No one did. Steve Nash could have if he would have played for Toronto, but no one had the impact he had on Canada. But I don't think that when you take in those numbers, then, because man, I was at those games when I was a kid. It wasn't sold out. There wasn't. No one was chomping at the bit. We were all wearing Vince jerseys, yeah, but like you could get a seat. Vince.
Yeah, but there was still a transition trying to come out of these shadows of hockey. I think that was the problem, right? That's why. I mean, you're right. Stadiums were not selling out, but people were still preferring hockey over basketball.
I totally agree with you, and he making those strides and those steps was colossal for that. And without that, they're not where they are today. But just because I went in and took out what was there before, you built it. You should still get the credit for building it. You know what I mean? It's just the process of how things go. Someone had to do that.
Right.
And he did. And his career needs to be better to be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. If you put this guy in the Hall of Fame, that's absolutely fucking ridiculous, in my genuine opinion. Because when you look at guys with, and then the only argument, right? Well, he's 22 seasons. That's the most ever. I agree. That's incredibly impressive. Just wait 2 more years for LeBron. He's going to beat it anyways. But players with 19 years, Juwan Howard, Jason Terry, Jamal Crawford, Tyson Chandler, are they Hall of Famers?
No.
All of them. Jamal Crawford and Tyson Chandler will probably get to 21, 22 years. I'm assuming Jamal's going to get signed again because I'm a Jamal Crawford fan. But I don't know. But I just mean, those guys, in my opinion, are not in any way, shape, or form a Hall of Famer. And then when I think about Vince Carter, I can't, with my own unbiased eye, put his career over those 4 guys. And I know what you're saying, but he was a scorer and he was the man on the team. He was. Trust me, he was. I get it. But so was Dion Waiters on the Heat a few years ago and they didn't have anybody. Dion Waiters probably averaged 27 that year too.
Right.
Did we want to give him a fucking Hall of Fame career? No. What Carter did off the court was Hall of Fame. Absolutely, man. No question about it. But us as Raptors fans, and I found this at the fan base, and I know my brother would feel this way too, we always just commit too hard to these guys and just fall so far in love and close the box, close the mind, close the box, forget everything else. Fuck the States. No, it's harder in Canada. It's harder to do this here. It is, I know, but it's got to be relative. You know what I mean? And you can say Raptors all the time. Where do you mark? I'm fine with him 1. Sure. I'm fine with him anywhere 1 to 3 because I think it depends on your perspective. But don't tell me he was so damn good. Because he just wasn't, dude. And he just wasn't, and the numbers show it. And if you were to go back and put yourself in that, we're all going to be wowed by the dunks. But we were all wowed by Gerald Green dunking for 5 years, too.
Yeah. No, you're right. I still don't know if I completely agree with you, but you definitely make a great case. Like, you're right. When you look at his entire body of work, right? Like,
he was never a first-team NBA player. That, to me, right away, you're not a Hall of Famer. You were never one of the best 5 guys in the league. Ever. Your whole career. For 22 seasons, you were never one of the best 5.
That's fair enough. But, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame that probably weren't even in the top. I mean, that maybe might not even have all NBA teams to the resume, right?
Probably have rings, probably have more awards, though. He has no MVPs, he has no rings.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
No, but see, this is what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah.
Your passion for him specifically is blinding you about your ability to just say he wasn't as good of a shooting guard as I think he is.
But it's not even that. I just it's the people that have gotten into the Hall of Fame. That's where I just where is he?
But now, see, that's a tough discussion.
Right.
Because now we're comparing.
So you think Tracy McGrady deserves to be in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay, so that's another one I always say. I'm like, if Tracy McGrady can get in the Hall of Fame, then why can't Vince? Right? Because Tracy McGrady couldn't get out of the first round of the playoffs, right?
But I almost guarantee Tracy McGrady was probably a first-team NBA All-Star, and if not, he was at least in a competition of MVP award on multiple occasions. And in Orlando, probably averaged over 30 for a lot longer than Vince. I would tell you his stats right away are guaranteed better over career.
100%, right? Because he was a prolific scorer, right? He went toe-to-toe with Kobe in those games. Like, he was a bucket getter.
I would
absolutely.
say he would be many more All-Star appearances, I would assume. And he was the guy all the time.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, because that's I don't know.
And also, there's moments too, right? Now, when you think about T-Mac, remember that time he had 30 points in 13 seconds? He has moments where you're like, holy fuck. Vince's moments were dunks, and those were holy fuck. But a dunk isn't. Just because you dunk doesn't mean you're a good basketball player. Gerald Green's my favorite example with this. Because I loved watching Gerald Green dunk, man. Dude, if Gerald Green was a Raptor his whole career, we would have all been fucking going crazy. This guy's doing off the thing. He would have won dunk contests for us, all this shit. He's not a good basketball player, though.
Yeah.
He was fine. He had a couple years where he had 25 points.
We've seen him play. I'm curious. I'm curious if you go to the casual NBA fan and you're just like...
But which casual NBA fan? The one in Canada, lives in Toronto? Because he's going to tell you Vince Carter's a Hall of Famer.
I know. I mean, it's just interesting to me, like, who would you remember more, right? And not necessarily for their body of work, but who maybe had more of an impact on you. Right? Like, who's the basketball player that you're just like, shit, I remember him and he fucking killed it, when he was great. Like, that's, this goes back to, like, what's your definition of the most valuable player? What's your definition of the Hall of Fame player? Like, it comes down to a lot of that.
Well, when you talk about that, yes, that part in itself. But I'm just speaking to the, comparison of Vince. And now let's even just go with Raptors. Rank him in Raptors. Because I think Chris Bosh had a better Raptor career.
Yeah.
I think Kyle Lowry has a ring now, and he has a better Raptor career. And I'm fucking real close to saying Kawhi Leonard's more important in this history because he won an NBA championship with them. And Pascal Siakam's on his way to passing that too. So where is Vince on your list? Because again, I'm cool with 1 to 3. I'm cool with anywhere in it.
So for me, it's an entire, it comes to an entire body of work, right? Like, it's like what you've done for Raptors, what you've meant for Raptors, your loyalty, all that stuff. Okay, so number one is Kyle.
Oh.
Kyle is number 1 for me. Okay. If he doesn't win a championship, that might be a different conversation.
Right.
But I think he embodies and epitomizes exactly what a Raptors fan is, right? Like, gritty, hard, stubborn, I just think that he's been the most loyal and consistent Raptor for us. So he's number 1. I would put Vince number 2. I'd put Vince number 2 basically for what he has done for Raptors and Raptors culture and putting us on the map. Number 3 is up for debate for me because it's hard because Kawhi brought us a championship and did it in a one and done. He's a John Wick of the NBA basically. But then you're right, Chris Bosh kind of gets forgotten in all this conversation based on what he did in his entire career as a Raptor. But I would almost lean to Kawhi as number 3 and my Chris Bosh is my number 4.
Okay, now go basketball players.
In terms of talent, skill?
Genuine, skilled basketball players. Take away the dunks,
Kawhi has to be number 1.
Everything. Okay.
Kawhi has to be number 1.
Is Vince your top 5? Answer's no.
He might be right now. I gotta wait for Pascal. If you're talking about...
You wouldn't even put Serge Ibaka?
No.
Ooh.
Man, Vince could get to the hoop at will and get buckets, man. Like, he could score.
But could he though?
Like, he was. You're telling me teams were. You already answered this question, but you're saying teams didn't feel threatened by him. But I do believe teams were.
I don't think the Dogs felt threatened by him. I'm sure teams prepped for him, of course. I mean, I played. When we used to play York, we used to prep for a guy in defense. We used to prep all the time. you prep on what you're facing. You treat everything the exact same. But whether you face dog shit or gold, you treat it the same. That's what I'm saying. I think that they were shit.
You're telling me right now, Larry Brown and that team that had, they had Dikembe Mutombo, who was Defensive Player of the Year that year. They had AI. They had Aaron McKee. They had all these great guys. You're telling me they weren't worried about Vince potentially dropping 50 or 40 points in a game?
No, I don't think so. Because how many times did Vince drop 50 points in a game, dude?
I mean, he did once in that series, but he still averaged 27, 28 points per game.
Yeah. AI averages 30. Okay. Canceled out. You're good.
I don't agree with you. I know,
and that's totally fine.
I think just peak Vince, people were worried about Vince Carter.
That's totally fine, but I hate even saying the word peak Vince, dude. Peak Vince was for 4 years, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, why are we giving this guy like this huge Hall of Fame-esque Kobe level praise?
Fair enough.
You had a 4-year good career.
All right. Well, this conversation didn't go the way I wanted to. Unfortunately,
no, man, you should be okay with disagreeing. That's
I know.
point.
I agree with you, but I just you haven't stirred me in any sort of different way.
A disagreement is perfect. That's exactly where I thought we would land on this. I had no intention of you taking my side whatsoever. But I genuinely feel that us as Canadian basketball fans really just didn't know how to separate what he did off and on, and I think that. Again, I don't think that's a problem, but I just get so annoyed when we hear all these Vince was this, Vince was that, Vince was this. Man, we can go down the list of NBA guys throughout all their careers, and again, you're going to find Hall of Famers that were worse. I will back you, but we're going to find a fuck ton of guys that weren't in the Hall of Fame that were better.
So where do you stand on everyone's conversation right now about if they should... Is Vince one of the first guys that you hang his jerseys in the Raptors?
Again, I do, because off the court, astronomical amounts that you can't even compare, you know? Like, this is something that what's a guy right now in today's day and age that's giving away money like hell? Like, I hope that guy gets lifted too, you know? Like, I think those things where you internally look at it as an organization, I think that should be the focus. Like, let the league get the guys that are good at the skill, you know? But as far as an organization, be like, hey, let's not forget that Vince Carter literally saved this place. This place, like this building that we're in. Right. He built it, he saved it. He started this whole thing when it was the hardest. Like, that needs to be noticed. I completely agree. But not when you win not that many games a year and you're the only good player. I don't think that... I just don't want to hear that much from that.
Right.
That's all.
No, that's fair enough. And I completely agree with you. Like, I don't know why it's... Like, I've seen people be like, it's absurd to think that like you would raise that guy's jersey, but I don't know at what point you started joining the NBA or started watching Raptors basketball, because like you said, it will have an impact if... I mean, like for myself, like I got into basketball because of Vince Carter.
Exactly, and I just think even watching that Carter effect, you know, the interviewing the guys and Drake and all these guys, they're acting like everyone and their mother had a Vince Carter jersey on, and every basketball fan did. But again, you made the point earlier, dude. He left the Raptors in what, 2004? The Raptors started in 95, so the organization was alive for 9 years. Like, they're still suppressed by the Leafs at this point. Not until 2010, I would say, really. Until 2010-ish was kind of like the, okay, now we have
I'd say even like way further past that, right?
So maybe even later than that.
Recently, right?
But then this is my point where I think these numbers are so skewed. These numbers are so skewed. When you have 1%, you know, of 10 people, that's a lot. When you have 1% of 5 million, it's nothing. That's what I'm saying. I think where we were going in Canada seems so colossally big with Vince, but it was like just absolutely minuscule compared to what was happening in America.
Yeah, I guess we never really got into like the after, but I mean, you made a solid case that, I mean, wasn't really able to revive his career since, but he provided a solid veteran presence off the bench, right?
Again, and I think again what we're speaking to again is the quality of human being this guy is. He's not around for 22 seasons because of his performance. That's very, very clear. He's around because of what he brings to the locker room, and Trae Young talks about it even still. Like, this guy, I would have him again. Like, of course, dude, everyone would have him on his team because he's such an experienced and amazing human, man. Right. You can't have enough of those dudes. Right. There's never going to be enough of those
This is a guy that could have easily bandwagon and joined the Warriors, the Lakers, at the big, but he's like, that's not the player that I want to be, right? He joined the Kings, he joined the Hawks, he joined these teams, man. Right? So,
and I guarantee you there would be contract offers from 15 teams tomorrow if he was like, I want one more.
One more, yeah.
For sure. No, you can never have enough of these good humans. But I just don't want to get confused with the fact of you being an elite basketball player on the Hall of Fame level.
Yeah. No, I think to say that he was an elite...
He's not. He was not an elite basketball player.
I don't know.
and I'm I'm just glad that we're having this discussion because I know.
I just
where
wish
you stand
if
on
I
this.
knew it was gonna go this deep, I probably would have done a deeper dive on numbers and other players. So I that's my fault on it. And I'm glad you did it. But it's just that just based on what I know and what I have in front of me right now, it's just
all I looked at was the guys with the same years played.
I will say in your defense, like even Bill Simmons has come out and said the same thing.
Oh,
right?
did he?
He says that we overhype Vince Carter.
I on purpose did not listen to Bill Simmons because I feel like you and I talk too much.
And this is a podcast from like years ago, right? It wasn't recent. Like he didn't talk about it on his recent podcast, but he also says that I think that we are kind of clouded and blinded by his early success, right?
Right, and just the
But he also said based on what we're letting into the Hall of Fame, I do think that he will be
again.
That
That to me is a different discussion because you're not going to see. I'm not going to be happy looking at the Hall of Fame list. Trust me, I'm by no means. But the only numbers I wanted to compare were the seasons because I'm not going to compare a guy's career 4 or 5 years, even though if he had 5 good years, that's more than Vince did in his career. But I'm saying look at these guys with the longer careers, right? 20 to 21 years in the league. Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, KG, Dirk, Kareem, Kobe, Shaq, Charles Oakley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, James Edward, Moses Malone. Almost unanimous all Hall of Famer, right? 19 was where you got into this group where I thought Vince was a lot more alike, where you have Juwan Howard, Jason Terry, Jamal Crawford, Tyson Chandler, Tim Duncan, Jason Kidd. And then when you talk about guys like Jason Kidd and Tim Duncan, right? I think Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I think Kidd's got an MVP.
It's no brainer.
Sorry, the think was for Kidd, not Tim Duncan's.
I think Jason gets a first ballot
because he has a couple MVPs, right? He has no ring though.
Did you know he won with the Mavs that year?
Did he?
Was he?
Did
Yeah, he was on that
with
team.
Dirk.
Yeah, he has a ring.
But so now to compare guys, right? If we want to make it fair, like look at Dirk's career. He had more than 4 to 22 years that he's elite, and Dirk was elite for a long time.
Yeah.
So Dirk's Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Yeah.
And when you have these long careers, it is impressive, but I also think it puts more pressure on your own body of work to be more productive for those many years. Again, you see the guys like Juwan Howard, Jason Terry, Jamal Crawford, and Tyson Chandler. Like, of course they played that long because none of us think they were that good. They had flashes, man. Jason Terry had flashes. Don't tell me he didn't. Juwan Howard had flashes. Don't tell me he didn't. But they were good role guys. They were good experience. They were good human beings. They were good guys to have on the team. So that's why they stick around. When you stick around for the 20 plus, it's either because of your personality and the way you can fit on any roster and you've been on all these teams, like these 19 seasons guys, or you're Tim fucking Duncan, or you're Shaquille fucking O'Neal, or you're Kobe Bryant. There's a huge difference in my eyes. Huge, 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 huge. That's the Hall of Fame. And then you have the guys that can get to the same level of experience and league play, but you just can't put them in the same category. They're not. It's not meant to be the case.
No, fair enough. No, that's. I think if he gets in, it'll be because of when his popularity peaked and the buzz that he had created when he was a player and his showmanship and all that sort of stuff. Like he'll get in the Hall of Fame not because of the longevity. Well, I mean, longevity will be a huge talking point, right?
Which is so contradicting because you only had 4 productive years.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's it. It makes a great debate. I mean, this is like
this is
why people are still talking about it, right? But I don't know. I'm just for me, this podcast was to be like grateful for everything he did and celebrate, when he was a Raptor and how great he was while he was a Raptor.
And to reiterate that, I think all time, if you want me to list it, I would put Vince as the number 1 Raptor because again, he was the foundation, and I think that's what you have to give onus to. But,
so that's interesting. That's another debate where I picked Kyle and you picked Vince.
and
which is weird.
And again, like if Kyle gets another ring, I think you got to go Kyle, right? That'd be insane for him to do another ring with the Raptors at this point. That's insane. But I think just again at the time and what he did for Canada. But what I'm saying, for him to be the best Raptor, has nothing to do with basketball. That's what I'm trying to say, right? And off the court, all the charity work always just goes to my heart, man. I love that stuff. He's never had money issues and never had a ton of money because he's always giving stuff away. That's something I will always deeply respect.
Well, and I think another part of this conversation is I hope people have been able to finally get over everything, right? Now that he's been able to put a bow on his career, right? Because I mean, I was sour for a very, very long time, right? I can't even remember the moment I finally got over it. I remember they finally cheered him when he finally came back to the Raptors. It must have been when he was in Memphis or whatever it may have been, right? But I hated Vince Carter, right? But you're listening to this podcast and you're like, D never hated this guy. No, I actually he quit on us. I was so upset when he left for the Nets, and then he had some early early success with the Nets, right? And that made me especially made me upset because I think in his last season with the Raptors, he said, "I'm not dunking anymore." I'm like, who says that? Like, you don't just come out and say that, right?
But that was like a GM problem, right?
100%. Like, he wanted Julius Erving to be the GM at the time. Rob Babcock was dog shit and did nothing for the Raptors, right? Basically traded Vince for a bag of rocks, right?
All correct.
But it hurt my feelings. Like that just speaks to how much of an effect this guy had on me, right? But I finally was able to come full circle, got a little older, and I appreciated what he did for the franchise. 100%. Right?
And I hope that's the stance on everyone had. And this is completely a celebratory podcast for Vince Carter and what he did for the Raptors. Again, completely.
Except for minutes 36 to 44.
Because we have to be realistic.
I'm glad you put in perspective, because there's a lot of people that don't deep dive in the numbers like you and I would, right? And you really showed that, there is a very strong case that he should not be in the Hall of Fame, right?
Very, very strong.
Because like you said, if you push a piece of paper with all the stats, I'm going to tell you that this guy, whoever this guy is, does not belong in the Hall of Fame. But I think you're also right that there is a little bias for me being a Canadian basketball fan, right? We don't have the CEBL if it wasn't, right?
We have to admit, man, as Raptors fans are one of the more biased in basketball. And it's okay, man. We are with Leafs too. I just hate how we always try and no, we're not biased. Just because we like them. Shut the fuck up, man.
Just sounded like a Leafs fan.
No, literally though. But do you know, like, we're fucking outrageously biased. We want to see Canada win. Right. I agree. That's what most cities are like, and it was amazing to see them win last year. But just let's not, like, when we get into these huge arguments and debates, let's not lose touch with reality. Right.
Well, you can catch the other tail half of this debate in our bonus episode, because I'm sure we could still go for hours and hours and whatever. But it's a great conversation, and I don't know. Hopefully, you'll listen to this podcast and you'll start maybe questioning yourself and
have an opinion.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having an opinion.
I don't give a fuck if you.
I think I was just thrown off by all the ammo that you came in with, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. And you make a good point, and I just, if I preach being a realist, I have to preach being a realist as well. If we go through 1,000 NBA players, it's going to be fucking all over the map, up and down, you're going to have I'm telling you, you're going to have weird careers where guys like Deion Waiters will have a better career on paper than Vince, and you'd be like, huh, that's not right. And then numbers are skewed always, but the longer you play, the longer you got to be good if you want to be considered the great, right? In my opinion,
right. So here, I don't want to get too far in this, but there's 3-point specialists in the NBA, and they'll get into the Hall of Fame for being 3-point specialists. Do you think? No? Yeah, maybe.
By just being, but you gotta have
like
more
Ray
than that.
Allen. Are you having him in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, brother, come on. My man has rings.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes. He has probably the most pressured basketball shot in the history of NBA. Yeah. Game 6 finals.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes, Ray Allen.
No, I think I'd have to look at the list and see if anybody had gotten the NBA for being a 3-point specialist, but Vince made dunking so cool. Like, is that something that you could look at and be like...
So my thing is, if you're going to be a specialist, you got to do something else. You got to have an MVP. You got to be at least in the MVP discussion.
He developed into a pretty decent 3-point shooter over the course of the... Like, he's in the top, I want to say, 10 or 15 of all time in 3-point. But that also probably has to do with the fact that he's been in the league for 22 years.
Exactly. Right? And he's 37.1% from 3 on his career, which isn't bad. 43.5% shooting from the field, again, which is good. But also, don't get too horny. Skewed. He dunks. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely.
This is where these numbers we can get flip-floppy. But one thing I was surprised with, which I don't know if you'll think is good or not, 79.8% from the free throw line in his career for 22 years.
I don't think that's good.
That's not good in my eyes.
Do you have the number for attempts, though? Because, that's what made him so great, was he able to get the line a lot. But then if he's not converting, I mean, you're hurting his case even more.
I told you at the start.
I did not know he was a bad free throw shooter.
He's a bad free throw shooter. And now when you think back on it, though, and you think about his style of play, he wasn't that good of a shooter. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. No. I don't even know how to wrap up that segment, jeez. Well, I just want to say thank you to Vince. I know you never listen to this podcast, but very appreciative for everything you did for basketball and the culture, for Canadian basketball. And like I said, a lot of things that you see in today's world, people being interested in basketball, becoming on sort of the forefront. It'll never be hockey, but it's as close as it ever will be, I think, at this point, right?
Without him, we're still 10 years behind.
Absolutely. One good thing about Vince that you can say before we wrap things up here, James.
No, just one of the best childhood memories of watching that guy dunk and just put on a show in a way that is so clearly natural, where it wasn't premeditated.
Guys are struggling still with that, right?
Well, dude, I think, again, like, when you talk, like, you don't hear from Vince, right? He's kind of this personality. He has a podcast where he's just, like, kind of calm and cool, collective guy. Some dudes have it, man. And he had the showmanship, dude.
Dude, there's gonna be a bidding war if there not is already for him to be on a a TNT, be on a panel, right?
Like all eyes on him is perfect. I think there's just some people.
He's just a great ambassador for the sport.
And you look at dunk contests, guys take a bunch of attempts and shit. Vince, nah, man, he's walking up. First one's going down. It's gonna look dope. He's gonna do something after to make you fucking go damn, and then he's gonna walk off like it didn't matter. And every time he did that.
Yeah, every time he did that.
It was different, dude.
Right. There's a great clip of his top 10 dunks, and he breaks down every dunk, and he says like I literally thought of that while it was in the air, which is absurd.
Like this guy is. I don't think. Again, something that we're in today's day and age is so hard to find, where people that aren't pushed by anything. He seems to just be his own mind, his own self, and that's it.
Right.
And that's what made him so fucking crazy.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to put a bow on that finally. It's weird because I keep looking at the clock and I feel like we've recorded for 2 hours, but it's because I've been here for 3 hours. But I'm glad this finally worked out. Knock on wood. We'll stop recording and hopefully find out that we have a presentable podcast. But yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about coming up soon. Definitely. Right? I think tomorrow is the deadline for the NBA. No, today's Monday. Losing my days already. So Wednesday is the deadline for rosters. Yeah. So we'll have a better idea of what teams will look like going into the Disney bubble idea.
The notable backouts, I guess, are what? Just Avery Bradley. Burton's not really because he was from Washington. Someone else just backed out yesterday, I thought, from the Brooklyn Nets.
Wilson Chandler.
That's it.
Wilson Chandler. I think between the next 24 hours, we could probably pick up our phones in a bit and find out because, again, deadline is Wednesday. A lot of these teams have to submit on Tuesday night. So I think through the news cycle, we'll probably find out more and more.
So let's do a fun little bet. You think a big name backs out?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you make a great point that these guys are not concerned about, like Fred VanVleet said today. So they had like a press conference for the Raptor players and Messiah is saying like, it's inevitable that someone's going to catch it. But these guys are kind of at the peak of their careers, right? Like they're in the best shape of their life, right? Man. So I think the question for a lot of these NBA players is, do I bring my family down for that second round of playoffs? And Fred VanVleet has already said, no matter what, I'm not bringing my family. I'm just not taking any chances. Not jeopardizing. His kids are a lot younger, but that's a sacrifice that these guys have to make. They're not going to see their kids till August, September. I think it goes as late as October, right? Like that's. Imagine being away from your family for that long.
No, man, I get it, but hey, we got FaceTime, and you're gonna make like 20 mil, so you'll be all right.
Well, and I think kudos to the NBA. We were talking about having an impact, and they're discussing about the idea of putting whatever message you want on the back of your jersey, and these are the steps that you have to take in order to justify this. It
would be such an absolute abysmal display if the NBA doesn't use this to the forefront of everything. Yeah. This needs to be the forefront. Yeah. Just don't fuck this up, please.
So what's the over-under that J.R. Smith will say Henny God? Or Supreme, because wasn't he the first one to come out with like the Supreme sleeve? Oh my god, I hope nobody uses that for a marketing advantage, because that would be sickening.
I would prefer Henny God. I think he plays better with Henny God on his back.
I totally agree with you. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. As always, thanks for tuning in. You can catch us on everything. YouTube will look a little differently because we won't. I'm not recording. I just didn't want to. I'm so glad we didn't consider the logistical nightmare we got coming into this. But hopefully, it won't take as long next time. I'm hoping to get things figured out. So thanks to James' laptop. Thanks to Microsoft, Apple, for giving James such a
shout out to Steve laptop. Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Anyways, James, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being patient and putting up with this. As always, thanks for tuning in. You can find us. Until next time, enjoy your Canada Day. It's not a long weekend, but make the most of it with the Hump Day holiday. All right, take it easy. Bye.